The twig seemed to be moving all by itself. It rose and tilted at an angle, it jolted drunkenly, and then continued to move slowly forward. Hidden amongst the woodland debris which littered the ground, 10 tiny ants soldiered on, the timber for their growing nest. Raindrops, like cannonballs, hammering the soil around them. A terrible storm besieged the small wood on the hilltop. In every direction, clouds towered high into the heavens, giving the air an electric quality. Everything was alive. The willows' long arms whipped furiously in the gale. Leaves from the previous autumn were spun into the air in twisting pillars of red and orange. The rain seemed to be falling from every point in the compass, wetting every inch of every exposed surface. Hunkered down in their tiny cottage, the Hedgehog and Mole peered through the windows as tears of rain slid sadly down the panes. These two animals weren't common. They weren't even slightly different. In fact, it would be fair to say that they were truly exceptional animals. Far aside from the fact that they lived together in a tiny cottage, which is unusual enough for most creatures, they loved a storm. The hedgehog, who in her youth had seen some of the world outside the small wood on the hilltop, had seen some truly astounding storms in her time. She remembered that as a small and tiny hedgehog she had seen a spiralling tornado on her travels. She had always marvelled at the power of nature. She respected it in awe. The mole too had ventured outside the wood in his youth. He hadn't visited the same places as a hedgehog, but had also witnessed the terrifying might of nature. He recalled a time when he was walking down a road, and out of nowhere a torrent flushed down a gully next to him. A flash flood, he seemed to remember the locals calling it. Awesome and petrifying and exciting, all at once. The weather was a wonderful thing, the two creatures thought in unison, as they peered out on the spectacle outside their window. The trees creaked and bent in the wind, and the rain continued to slash across the landscape. The sky darkened with every moment, and the clouds swelled angrily. Without warning, a bright flash coursed through the world. It illuminated the woodland with such a pure white light, casting crisp shadows wherever it was inconveniently blocked. Almost immediately after, the ground shook violently, and a loud crack reverberated through the forest. The Hedgehog and Mole, in surprise, clung to each other with a reflexive lunge and grasp. It's certainly true that they loved nature, and its incredible displays of power, though they also respected enough to be more than a little afraid. "That was close," the hedgehog whispered. "It was, wasn't it?" the mole replied. The wind continued to grow stronger in its assault of the small wood on the exposed hilltop. The trees began to struggle to restrain the ever-increasing surge of pressure as it is built about them. There was a loud, groaning and creaking wail from outside the cottage. The two small animals clung to each other desperately as a tree, just 4 short strides from their front door, pulled its roots from the earth with a terrible cry. Nature's pain was palpable, and both creatures felt it, as silent tears of fear and sadness bloomed from their tiny eyes. It had been a close thing. If the tree had fallen just a few feet to the left, if the wind had gusted just a few degrees out, the two poor animals would have found themselves without a home. Though the tree did not fall a few feet to the left, the wind did not gust a few degrees further to the east. Instead, the two animals, while shaken by the loss of a beautiful tree, recognized their fortune. As the storm passed overhead, and the sky brightened, the Hedgehog and Mole stayed by the window. They saw the storm as it raged outside, and they saw it passing now. They saw the devastation it had left behind, and the fresh earth torn up by the great tree's roots. They saw in the fresh earth the opportunity nature had created for new growth, and in the brightening sky, optimism for the future. The two animals had a realization that they had stopped, had held each other close as the storm passed, and survived. They had supported each other and been there for each other, and their love had grown throughout. They loved a storm for the excitement and the opportunity for new growth that it brought, but they also loved the calm which followed. They were safe. They had weathered the storm, and they would live on. In their love they knew there'd be tough days, but that the sun would always find a way of poking through.